Sometimes the universe has a strange way of bringing people together, Sarah whispered as she gazed at the sleeping child curled up against her side. 5 months ago, I was just a punchline in someone else's joke. Now I'm here, feeling like I finally found where I belong. She looked directly at the camera, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how a cruel prank changed not just my life, but the lives of a broken family who needed someone exactly like me. If you're enjoying this story of unexpected love and second chances, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming real-life stories that remind us all that sometimes the most beautiful beginnings come from the most unlikely places. Mark Donovan hadn't slept through the night in 3 years, not since Emily died. The doctors had called it a rare complication, something they couldn't have predicted or prevented. One day she was decorating the nursery, laughing about how their daughter would probably hate the color when she was a teenager, and the next, Mark was a widower with a newborn who would never know her mother. He stumbled through those first months in a fog of grief and exhaustion, learning to change diapers with hands that still reached for his wife in the middle of the night. His daughter Lily became his entire world, his reason for getting up each morning, for forcing down food, for continuing to breathe when sometimes it felt impossible. By the time Lily turned 3, Mark had settled into a routine. He worked from home as a graphic designer, which allowed him to be there for his daughter. They had their little rituals: pancakes shaped like animals on Sunday mornings, dance parties in the living room before bath time, and bedtime stories where Mark would do all the silly voices that made Lily giggle uncontrollably. To anyone looking in from the outside, they were managing, but Mark's friends knew better. "You need to get out more," Jason said one evening, as they sat on Mark's back porch. Lily had finally fallen asleep after an epic bedtime negotiation that involved 3 stories and a solemn promise that monsters were allergic to her nightlight. "I get out," Mark protested, taking a sip of his beer. "I took Lily to the park yesterday. That's not what I mean, and you know it." Jason had been Mark's best friend since college. He was also one of the few people who didn't tiptoe around Mark's grief anymore. "When was the last time you went on a date?" Mark snorted. "Right, because single dads with emotional baggage are such a hot commodity. Emily would want you to be happy," Jason said quietly. Mark stared out into the darkness of his backyard. The swing set he'd built last summer stood like a shadow against the night sky. "I am happy. I have Lily." "Mark, you're 34, not dead. Having Lily doesn't mean you have to spend the rest of your life alone." The conversation ended there, as they usually did when Jason brought up the subject of dating. But unknown to Mark, his friends had started hatching a plan. They were worried about him, the way he'd withdrawn from everything except work and parenting, how he never seemed to do anything just for himself anymore. They thought he needed a push, something to shake him out of the comfortable but lonely routine he'd built. The plan came together at a dinner party at Jason and his wife Megan's house. Mark had declined the invitation as he usually did, citing that he couldn't find a babysitter. The group of friends, Jason and Megan, couple Dave and Tina, and their single friend Ryan, sat around the dining table, the conversation inevitably turning to Mark. "He needs to get back out there," Tina said, swirling her wine. "It's been 3 years. We've tried," Jason sighed. "He's not interested." "What if we set him up?" Megan suggested. "Find someone really perfect and arrange everything so he can't say no?" Ryan snorted. "Yeah, because blind dates always work out so well." "Wait," Dave said, a mischievous smile spreading across his face. "What about Sarah?" The table went quiet. Sarah was a new employee at Dave's marketing firm. Brilliant, beautiful, and according to office gossip, impossibly high maintenance. "The Ice Queen?" Ryan laughed. "Are you trying to scare Mark off dating forever?" "No, hear me out," Dave leaned forward. "She's actually really nice once you get to know her. She's just intense, particular." "Particular?" Megan raised an eyebrow. "She sent back her coffee 3 times yesterday because it wasn't the right temperature," Dave admitted. "And she has this whole system for organizing the break room that she expects everyone to follow. She sounds perfect for Mark." Ryan said sarcastically. He barely remembers to comb his hair most days. That's exactly my point, Dave insisted. It would be hilarious. Mark shows up in his dad jeans with a stain on his shirt, and Sarah would probably have a spreadsheet for the date. That's cruel, Megan frowned. No, it's just a joke, Dave argued. One awkward dinner, they'd both have a story to tell, and maybe it would finally get Mark to realize there are other women out there. It might be the push he needs. And what about Sarah? Tina asked. How do you convince the Ice Queen to go on a blind date with a single dad? Dave grinned. Leave that to me. The next day at work, Dave approached Sarah's meticulously organized desk. Everything was at right angles. Her computer, her notepad, even her pens were arranged by color and size. Sarah herself was equally put together, not a hair out of place. Her blouse crisp and unwrinkled despite it being late afternoon. Hey Sarah, Dave said casually. Can I ask you something? Sarah looked up, her expression neutral. Of course. My wife and I have this friend. Really great guy, successful designer, but he's been going through a rough patch. We're trying to help him get back out there, and I immediately thought of you. Sarah's eyebrows rose slightly. You want to set me up on a blind date? Just dinner, Dave said quickly. He's smart, creative, has his own business. I think you two would have a lot to talk about. Sarah studied him for a moment. Why me specifically? Dave hadn't expected the direct question. Well, you're new in town, and I thought you might be looking to meet people. Plus, you're both so detail-oriented. Something flickered across Sarah's face. Amusement, perhaps, or skepticism. Detail-oriented, she repeated. In different ways, Dave added hastily. Complimentary ways. Sarah seemed to consider this. What's his name? Mark. Mark Donovan. And there's nothing else I should know about him? Dave hesitated just a fraction too long. Nope. Just a nice guy who could use a nice evening out. Sarah nodded slowly. All right, give him my number. But Dave, if this is some kind of office prank, remember that I'm the one who schedules your client meetings. Dave laughed nervously. No prank. Promise. As he walked away, he didn't see the small, knowing smile that played at the corners of Sarah's mouth. Convincing Mark proved more challenging. He refused outright when Jason first suggested the blind date, citing all the usual reasons. No time, no interest, no babysitter. But his friends were persistent. They arranged for Megan to watch Lily. They picked the restaurant, a casual but nice Italian place that wouldn't make Mark feel underdressed. They even offered to help him shop for a new shirt. Why are you also invested in this? Mark asked suspiciously as Jason practically pushed him into a department store. Because we care about you, Jason said, which was true. And because we think you'll really like Sarah, which was a lie. What's she like? Mark asked, reluctantly examining a blue button-down shirt Jason had thrust at him. Smart. Put together. Works in marketing with Dave, that tells me nothing. Jason shrugged. That's the point of a blind date. Discovery. Mark sighed, looking at his reflection in the mirror. The shirt did look good on him, better than the faded t-shirts he usually wore. One dinner, he conceded, and then you all leave me alone about dating for at least 6 months. Deal, Jason agreed too quickly. The night of the date arrived. Mark stood in his bathroom attempting to tame his unruly dark hair. Lily sat on the closed toilet lid, swinging her legs and chattering away. Are you going to marry this lady, Daddy? She asked innocently. Mark nearly choked. No, sweetheart. I'm just having dinner with her, like when we have dinner with Uncle Jason and Aunt Megan. Lily considered this. But you're wearing your special shirt, and you smell different. That's called cologne, Lil. I like it. You smell like a Christmas tree. Mark laughed, some of his nervousness easing. Thanks, I think. When Megan arrived to babysit, she whistled appreciatively. Look at you, hot stuff. Mark rolled his eyes. Don't start. Seriously, Mark, you look good. Her expression softened. Try to have fun tonight, okay? You deserve it. Mark nodded, though he didn't quite believe her. As he drove to the restaurant, his wedding ring sat heavy in his pocket. He'd taken it off for the first time in 3 years, and his finger felt naked without it. He almost turned around twice, but the thought of facing his friend's disappointment kept him going. He arrived at the restaurant, 10 minutes early, a habit from his life with Emily, who had always been pathologically punctual. The hostess led him to a table near the back, and he ordered a glass of wine to calm his nerves. At precisely 7 p.m., the door opened, and a woman walked in who made Mark's heart skip a beat, but not in the way his friends had probably hoped. Sarah Chen was striking, tall and elegant in a simple black dress, her dark hair falling in a sleek bob that framed her face perfectly. But it was the clipboard in her hand that made Mark's stomach drop, an actual clipboard with what appeared to be papers attached to it. As she spoke to the hostess, she consulted whatever was on those papers, nodding as if confirming something. Mark took a large gulp of his wine. What had his friends gotten him into? The hostess pointed in his direction, and Sarah turned, her gaze finding him immediately. She smiled, a small, measured curve of her lips, and walked toward him with purpose. Mark stood awkwardly, nearly knocking over his wine glass. "Mark Donovan?" she asked, extending her hand. "That's me," he confirmed, shaking her hand. Her grip was firm, professional. "Sarah, right? Sarah Chen. It's nice to meet you." As they sat down, Mark couldn't help but glance at the clipboard she placed beside her plate. Sarah caught his look and smiled again, this time with a hint of mischief. "You're wondering about this," she said, tapping the clipboard. I don't usually see people bring office supplies to dinner," Mark admitted. Sarah leaned forward slightly. "Can I be honest with you, Mark? Please. I know this is a joke." Mark blinked. "I'm sorry." "This date. Dave didn't think I'd figure it out, but it was pretty obvious. The way he described you as detail-oriented when he was clearly thinking about my particular ways. The nervous laugh when I asked if there was anything else I should know about you." She shrugged elegantly. "I've been the punchline before. I recognized the setup." Mark felt his face grow hot with embarrassment and anger. "I had no idea," he said stiffly. "I'm going to kill them." "Don't," Sarah said, surprising him. "I decided to come anyway. I was curious." "About what? About what made me such a perfect joke date for you?" She tilted her head slightly. "So, what is it? Are you secretly a slob? A compulsive gambler? Do you have 17 cats?" Despite himself, Mark laughed. "I have a 3-year-old daughter." Sarah's expression changed, softening almost imperceptibly. "Ah, the thing Dave conveniently forgot to mention. I'm a widower," Mark added, the words still difficult to say aloud. "My wife died during childbirth. I haven't dated since before I met her, actually." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "And your friends thought setting you up with someone they assumed you'd hate was the best way to get you back out there?" "They mean well," Mark said, though he wasn't feeling particularly charitable toward his friends at the moment. "They worry about me. They should trust you more," Sarah said simply. She picked up the clipboard and held it out to him. "Here, this might make more sense now." Confused, Mark took it. What he'd assumed were work documents was actually a single sheet of paper with a neatly typed list: Blind Date Survival Guide 1. Arrive on time, 7 p.m. sharp. 2. Introduce self confidently, firm handshake, eye contact. 3. Ask about his work first, graphic design. Prepare questions. 4. Wait until appetizers to mention my anxiety disorder. 5. If conversation stalls, discuss recent films, books, or the statistical improbability of blind dates succeeding. 6. Remember to breathe. 7. It's just dinner, not a commitment. 8. If all else fails, fake emergency call at 8:30. Mark looked up, meeting Sarah's eyes. They weren't cold as he'd initially thought, but watchful, careful, vulnerable. "You have anxiety?" he asked softly. Sarah nodded. "Social anxiety, primarily. I've learned to manage it in professional settings, but dating..." She shrugged. "Hence the clipboard. My therapist suggested writing down strategies for situations that make me nervous. People usually find it off-putting." "I don't," Mark said honestly. "I think it's brave." Something in Sarah's expression shifted, a wall coming down. "Most people just think I'm uptight or difficult. Most people haven't seen what real difficulty looks like," Mark replied. He set the clipboard down gently between them. "For what it's worth, I make lists too. Mine are just usually in my head, and they're mostly about remembering to buy the right kind of apple juice or which stuffed animal is Lily's favorite this week." Sarah smiled, a real smile this time that reached her eyes. Tell me about her, your daughter. And just like that, the date that had been set up as a joke transformed into something neither of them had expected. Mark found himself talking about Lily, her obsession with dinosaurs, her recent declaration that she wanted to sleep hanging upside down like a bat, the way she still sometimes asked about the mommy she'd never met. Sarah listened with genuine interest, asking questions that showed she was really paying attention. When their food arrived, the conversation shifted to Sarah. She told Mark about growing up as the daughter of Chinese immigrants, the pressure to be perfect, how her anxiety had been dismissed as shyness until she'd finally sought help in college. She talked about her work in marketing, her love of mystery novels, and her cat named Chairman Meow. That's possibly the best cat name I've ever heard, Mark laughed. He lives up to it, Sarah assured him, very authoritarian about his feeding schedule. As they shared a dessert, tiramisu that Sarah admitted was a rare deviation from her usual strict diet, Mark realized he was enjoying himself, really enjoying himself, not just going through the motions. There was something refreshing about Sarah's directness, the way she didn't hide her quirks or pretend to be someone she wasn't. Can I ask you something personal? Sarah said as they waited for the check. After I told you about the time Lily decided to paint the dog with yogurt, I think we're past personal. Sarah smiled but then grew serious. Your wedding ring. I noticed the tan line. She gestured to his left hand. Mark instinctively touched his bare finger. I took it off for tonight. First time in 3 years. Was that your idea or your friend's? Mine, Mark admitted. It felt, I don't know, respectful somehow. To you and to Emily. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. Thank you for telling me and for not pretending this is something it isn't. What do you mean? This was supposed to be a joke, remember? Your friend setting you up with the office control freak. My coworkers warning me about the sad, disheveled widower. She shrugged. We were supposed to hate each other. Mark felt a surge of anger at his friends again, but it was tempered by the realization that, intentionally or not, they'd introduced him to someone he genuinely liked. Their plan backfired, he said. Spectacularly, Sarah agreed with a small smile. When they left the restaurant, there was an awkward moment in the parking lot. Mark wasn't sure what the protocol,